Alright there, YouTube. So, back with Old Red, or Project 1983 Peterbilt 359. As you can see behind me here, I've been busy working away. I haven't really been recording much. A lot of the body work and that stuff's just a lot more of the same that I've already showed you guys, and I just didn't want to keep repeating and repeating and repeating, so I didn't really record too much, and then I just kind of kept going along, and then all of a sudden I kind of realized, hey, I probably need to turn the camera back on. So here's where we're at. We got Old Reds ready for primer. All of our body work's done. We got some spot primer on the filler. Everything's masked off. And we're about ready to spray this thing. Everything's clean, wiped down, and ready for primer. Now just getting started here, I'm probably going to go ahead and just get this first coat of primer on. And then in between coats, I'll talk to you guys a little bit about what we're doing, why we're doing it, and how we're doing it. So anyway, let's get to it. Alright there, guys, so Old Red's all primered up. She's looking pretty good if I don't say so myself. I wanted to talk to you guys a little bit about some of the aha moments when I first started painting, to go from something that looks like shit to something that looks really good. First off, your prep is more important than anything else. I've got about 60 hours into this project at this point, and we're maybe 6 to 8 hours of actually working, not counting some of the just dead time while you're waiting for stuff to flash off. That's about all we got left. So your prep is the majority of the work in a project before you get it finished. Show you guys a few different guns that I've got. This one here is just a little cheapy Harbor Freight touch-up gun. It's actually not a bad little gun. It shoots pretty nice. This is my oldest gun. I've had this one the longest, and this one's got a 1.7 tip on it. It's a TranStar. I mostly use this one for primers anymore, but this was one of the first non-cheap guns that I bought. This is my favorite gun. I only use this one for base clears, and I don't shoot any primers through this gun. I try to take really good care of this one. This is my favorite gun, and this is a Euro brand. I believe this one might have actually been less expensive than this one, but I really like this gun. You can get really good results even with the cheapy Harbor Freight ones. A lot of it has more to do with your technique and how you use it than it does the gun itself. Now, a few things, that took me my first paint job or two to kind of figure out. A lot of times on your guns here, there we go. Yeah, you see on the tip here, it might not focus, so you might have to take my word for it. So you get that out of the light. There we go. It says max 10 psi. That is not 10 psi at the inlet. That's 10 psi at the tip, which is a totally useless number. There's absolutely no way to measure what the pressure is here, so disregard that. You're probably going to be running more somewhere 30, 35 psi at the inlet. Dial in your gun to your spray pattern. If you're blowing out to the ends and you're kind of missing in the middle, you need to back your air pressure down. If you're shooting a circle instead of a fan, you need to bring it up. Now, your different controls that you have on your gun. Let's see. This one here, this is your fluid control. Or no, that's pressure. That's where you can dial it back there. Wide open. It's kind of nice to have a regulator on your gun if you need to make a small adjustment, but you want to do the majority of your regulating at the wall. You want a decent air dryer. You don't want to be shooting wet air through your gun. This is your fluid tip. And you can see that this one's arranged the same way. This one, the fluid control is here. Or what is that one? I don't even remember. Doesn't really matter. Fan goes wide open. Always set your fan wide open as far as it'll go. And that's where you run it. Fluid tip, wide open, wide open, wide open. Regulate your pressure at the wall. You can make fine adjustments here, but this is not where you want to regulate your pressure. You want to regulate it at the wall with an air dryer and regulator. And then you can, if you're getting off a little bit, you can make a quick adjustment here at your gun. Now when you paint, you're going to want to be about this far from the work surface, about the width of your hand, like that. When you squeeze the trigger and you're just putting air out, you can move your hand towards the gun, and where you feel kind of a wall of air, that's your distance that you want to be from where you're painting. That's where you're going to get the best atomization. You're going to just paint and overlapping, 50% overlap across, hold an equal distance. Hold your gun straight to the panel that you're painting. Don't tip it like this. Don't tip it like this. Keep it straight. Even if you're painting on a surface like this, you want to break at the wrist and hold your gun straight. You don't want to be trying to spray it like this. Break your wrist, hold it straight. Hold it an even distance, 50% overlaps. Don't be afraid to go too wet. If you get a run, it's pretty easy to fix. Just let it dry. Take a little block with some 400 grit sandpaper. You're just knock that off smooth, and you're good to go. And that is the only run that I got right here. And that was just me being kind of stupid. But don't be afraid of putting it down too wet. You want it to wet out. You don't want to spray dry. If you're just misting it on dry, that's where you're going to get a lot of texture in your paint. Now you can take my word for it. It's a lot easier to fix a run than it is to wet sand and smooth out an entire surface that's all rough and bumpy because you sprayed it too dry. It's easier to fix a run than it is to fix orange peel. Now normally what I'd do is I'd give this primer about 24 hours to dry, and then I'd come back and I'd wet sand this all with a 400 grit block wet and knock it nice and smooth. But in this case, I'm not going to do that. The primer went down really nice and smooth. I'm really happy with it. I don't have 3 more days to work on this. I need to be getting this done. And we got 2 different colors we got to spray on this. The roof cap and the fenders are going to be one color, and the rest of the body is going to be another color. And this primer, we have a window between, it needs 2 hours to flash off after you spray it, and then you have up to 24 hours that you can paint it without having to scuff the primer. So what I'm going to do before I leave here today is I'm going to paint my accent color. You want to paint your color that covers the least amount of area first, and then you're going to want to let that dry and then mask it back off, and then you can paint your other color, and then you pull that masking back off and you clear the whole thing all at once. That's how you want to do multicolor paint jobs. Now if I do this right, I should be well within all of my recoat windows on this, and I shouldn't have to rescuff anything. But say if I paint these fenders and I find a problem on the body that I got to fix, and it takes some time and I can't get my clear on these fenders within that recoat window, then all you got to do is just scuff it, and then you can clear over it and it's fine. Now this is the paint that I'm going to be using for the accent color. We're going to use Chroma Base, DuPont Chroma Base for all of the base coat, and then we're going to clear this truck with Emron. Our color is going to be Volkswagen Royal Red 1981. This is what come up with when they scanned it for the darker red. So this is the color that we're going to use for the fenders and the roof. I'm not going to go too much into mixing paint because every single paint's different, but there will be some mixing information not only on the container, but you can also get the what's called the technical data sheet for the paint that will give you all the information that you need to know about the paint as far as how to mix it, recoat windows, and all that good stuff. So that's the first coat of the accent color down. And part of the reason why I'm using the chroma base for the color, also you will notice this is base clear, so that's why it's a little bit of a matte finish right now. It's not really going to pop until after we get the clear coat on it. But the reason why I'm using the chroma base rather than the Imron for the base coat is because the Imron stays tacky for a really long time. Whereas this stuff, I just finished spraying this, 15 minutes ago here now, and I could touch this right now if I wanted to. I don't really want to, but it would be dry to the touch already. So when we go and we mask this line back off to spray the other color, I know that we're not going to have any issues with the paint still being tacky. And that's why I went with the Chroma base rather than the M-Run for the base coat. Let alone the cost. Apparently red toners are quite expensive. Just the base coat alone on this was $1,600. I should have about a quart excess on both colors though, according to what I figure. So we'll see. I'll give you guys a rough cost estimate when we get this all done. But yeah, you notice it doesn't really show on the camera, but there's a few spots. Yeah, right there. There's still a tiny bit of gray showing through. That's fine. We don't need to get too carried away soaking down the base coat. A couple medium wet coats is all you really need. And that's why we do more than one coat, because then that covers anywhere that you happen to spray a little bit thin. You're not going to miss the same spot, you know, multiple times, or at least very unlikely. So that's why you do multiple coats. And I like base clears. I think it gives a better, longer lasting finish. It's also a little more forgiving. A lot of people that single stage is easier to paint because it's less steps. Really, it's not. Base clear is a lot more forgiving than single stage is. It takes some practice to shoot single stage. I can shoot single stage and do it well, but I prefer base clear. It is a lot more forgiving, and I think it's a better end result. So I always recommend that people shoot paint and base clear. I do not really like single stage. It does save time, you know, it's less steps, but I really much prefer a base clear finish. So we finished our first color there yesterday night, evening, whatever you want to call it, and we're back the very next morning. We've got the first color all masked off, and I think we're all ragged down, and I think we're ready to start mixing some paint and spray our main color on. And yeah. So going along here, everything was going good. Second coat of body colors going down. And I get to the driver door area here and the paint wrinkled. Now what causes that is laying the paint on too fast, too thick, without enough flash time in between the coats. So basically what I got to do is just let this sit and dry for quite a while, and we'll come back and we'll sand that smooth, dust a little more base coat on it, and continue on. Alright, so I think I got that fixed there. We're just going to have to dust a little more color back on there, and then hopefully continue on here. Alright, so I think disaster averted on that deal. Probably going to give it one more quick coat, and then we'll get the second coat on the sleeper, and then go ahead and start unwrapping our accent color. Let this thing flash off for several hours, and then put the clear coat on. This is one reason why you really don't want to try to rush things too much. I think we're gonna be all right there, though. Alright, so it's already noon the next day here. I was up here pretty late last night getting this finished up. It's all cleared up. Got the masking tape all taken off of it, threw the mirrors back on quick. Want to get it backed out in the sunlight so we can see what it looks like. Went ahead and aired it up with some shop air because it's going to be pretty brutal running it inside without stacks on it. So I think get this thing fired up here and move it outside and get a good look at it. Alright, so we're gonna let her sit out, let the paint cure before we finish putting this thing back together. Right, and here's where I had that issue spraying the base coat, and that come out perfect. Can't even tell, which is good. I'm happy about that. And yeah, overall I'm pretty happy with it. We are gonna have to run a buffer over it. There's a bit of dust and stuff in the paint, which is fine. We're just buff it out. Got quite a bit to do to put this thing back together. A lot of work besides just this that's got to be done before this truck's done, but overall I'm pretty darn happy with it. I was kind of running short on time to get this finished up, and we got her done. And yes, I am going to paint the frame. Seems how I know a lot of people are going to ask about that. I got a fairly big framework project planned to do to this, so that's why we didn't paint it now. But anyway guys, thanks for watching. Be sure to like, comment, subscribe down below. Thank you. Have a great day.